Everyone wants you to believe that the world around you is kind, soft, cooperative, that people are mostly good, mostly supportive, and mostly rooting for your success. You're told that society has evolved past brutality, past competition, past the raw instincts that once governed human behavior. You're encouraged to believe that if you're just authentic enough, nice enough, or patient enough, everything will somehow work out in your favor. That story is comforting, and it is wrong. The truth is far less pleasant, but far more useful. The world is not gentle. It is not designed to protect you. It does not care about your intentions, your feelings, or your potential. You are not floating through a supportive ecosystem where everyone wants you to win. You are navigating a battlefield, socially, professionally, romantically, economically, whether you acknowledge it or not. You are competing. You are competing with people who want the same resources you want, the same opportunities, the same recognition, the same partners, the same influence. Some people want what you have, others want what you are trying to build, and a small but very real percentage would benefit directly from your failure. That doesn't make them evil, it makes them human. Despite all our modern language, technology, and social rules, we are still operating on ancient hardware. We have not fully evolved beyond our primal instincts. Status still matters. Power still matters. Scarcity still matters. Mate selection still matters. Hierarchies still form whether we admit it or not. And pretending otherwise does not make you enlightened, it makes you vulnerable. Modern society encourages denial. It rewards surface-level politeness and punishes uncomfortable truth. It teaches you to suppress competitive instincts rather than understand them. It tells you that ambition is dangerous, that hierarchy is oppressive, and that conflict is always harmful. But here's the reality. Conflict is unavoidable. Competition is constant, and winning requires clarity, not comfort. If you want a life that is materially better, emotionally stronger, and structurally secure, you have to see the world as it is, not as you wish it were. You have to accept that most people are playing a game, whether consciously or unconsciously. And if you refuse to learn the rules, you don't opt out, you simply lose quietly. This is not motivational fluff. This is not about making you feel good. This is about telling you the things that are uncomfortable, unpopular, and often considered politically incorrect, but that actually determine outcomes. You don't come here to be soothed. You come here to win. And make no mistake, the coming years will divide people cleanly into two groups. Those who understand reality and adapt, and those who cling to comforting illusions while falling behind. The difference between those groups will not be luck, it will be truth tolerance. Winning is suffering, and there is no way around it. If you want to win, really win, not just survive, you will suffer. There is no alternate route, no shortcut, no enlightened bypass. Every meaningful achievement extracts a cost, and that cost is almost always paid in discomfort. It will be harder than you expect, it will take longer than you want, and it will demand more from you than you feel ready to give. You will lose friends, not because you became worse, but because you changed. Growth creates distance, progress exposes incompatibility. When you move forward aggressively, you remind others of what they are not doing, and many people do not forgive that reminder. You will also gain new allies, but only after enduring long periods of isolation. That part is rarely advertised. This is why most people quit. They don't quit because they are incapable, they quit because they were unprepared for the emotional toll. They believed success would feel validating early on. Instead, it feels lonely, confusing, and relentlessly demanding. There is a famous line from entrepreneur Ben Horowitz that captures this perfectly. He said that leadership, real leadership, is mostly about getting all the way to the truth. Not the sanitized truth, not the motivational truth, the full, ugly, inconvenient truth. That is the purpose of this work, not to inspire.
Misunderstand the terrain, you lose regardless of talent. The strategic warrior mindset. To survive and succeed in a competitive world, you must become what author Robert Greene calls a strategic warrior. A strategic warrior is not aggressive by default. They are not loud. They are not emotional. They are observant, controlled, deliberate. They understand human psychology deeply. They recognize patterns in behavior. They know that proximity does not equal loyalty, and that familiarity does not guarantee alignment. They do not assume goodwill where incentives suggest otherwise. Most importantly, they do not confuse kindness with weakness or honesty with emotional leakage. Modern culture often promotes emotional expression as a virtue in itself. Say your truth, let it out, be vulnerable. While emotional awareness is important, uncontrolled emotional expression in high-stakes environments is not strength, it is exposure. If you lead anything, your family, your business, your community, or even your own life, you will face conflict. The question is not whether conflict happens, but whether you are prepared for it. Most psychologists agree that success requires the ability to have difficult conversations. That is true, but incomplete. What actually matters is how you have those conversations, with whom, and from what position of control. There are 6 archetypes of people you will repeatedly encounter as a leader. Learning to identify them quickly is not optional, it is a survival skill. The 6 types of people you will face. 1. The reactive responder. This person lives in a constant state of urgency. They snap quickly. They are always overwhelmed. When asked how they're doing, the answer is always busy. They look frantic, sound rushed, move nervously. Their body language broadcasts defensiveness. When things go wrong, it's never their fault. There is always an external explanation, an unseen variable, a misunderstood instruction. Reactive responders drain energy. They are not malicious, but they are dangerous in leadership environments because they collapse under pressure and spread panic. They respond emotionally instead of strategically and often escalate problems that could have been solved calmly. You cannot build stability with someone who lives in reaction. 2. The emotional empath. This person feels everything deeply, or at least claims to. They experience emotional surges that seem disconnected from the situation at hand. They cry at inappropriate moments. They personalize neutral feedback. They struggle to distinguish between internal emotion and external reality. Because they are unpredictable, others begin to walk on eggshells around them. Conversations become constrained. Truth becomes filtered. Eventually, honesty disappears altogether. Leaders who cater to emotional empaths sacrifice clarity for comfort and pay for it later. 3. The pleasing pushover. This is the approval seeker, the people pleaser, the one who desperately wants to be liked by everyone and stands for nothing firmly enough to be disliked. They are enthusiastic but directionless, agreeable but unreliable. They say yes when they should say no, then quietly resent the consequences. Over time, they become invisible, not because they lack value, but because they never assert it. 4. The aggressive attacker. This person dominates through force. They interrupt, they speak loudly, they invade personal space, they push until others retreat. In the short term, they often win. Polite societies give them room. Conflict-avoidant people surrender ground. But this strategy has a shelf life. Over time, people see through it. Trust erodes. Allies leave. The aggressor eventually finds themselves isolated, surrounded only by those too weak or too dependent to challenge them. 5. The constant whiner. This person is perpetually wronged. Nothing is ever their responsibility. Every failure has an external cause. Every setback is someone else's fault. They are exhausting to be around. Negativity compounds. Momentum dies. Statistically, positive people earn more, advance faster, and retain stronger networks. Chronic whining is not just unpleasant, it is self-sabotage.
6. The strategic leader. This is who you must become. The strategic leader is calm under pressure, rational in chaos, emotionally regulated when others unravel. They do not escalate. They stabilize. They hold firm boundaries. They speak clearly. They do not react impulsively. They do not overshare. When others are upset, they remain grounded, like a ship's captain steering through a storm. This archetype is not celebrated on social media. It is not trendy, but it is the only one that wins consistently. Why emotional control is non-negotiable. Here is the cold truth most people won't say out loud. Leaders who cannot regulate their emotions plateau early. They rent instead of own. They reach middle management and stall. They struggle in long-term relationships, not because they are bad people, but because leadership demands emotional discipline. You cannot afford to break down when things go wrong. You cannot afford to lash out. You cannot afford to collapse under pressure. Half of winning is communication. The other half is emotional restraint. Most people fail not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, but because they cannot hold the line when discomfort arrives. You will. Everyone is trying harder than you think. One of the most dangerous lies you can believe is that successful people got there easily. They didn't. They just learned how to hide the effort. From the outside, success often looks smooth, like things simply fell into place. People post highlight reels, polished moments, carefully framed wins. You see the result, not the cost, and your brain fills in the gap with a comforting assumption. It must not have been that hard for them. That assumption is wrong. In reality, almost everyone who is winning is working far harder than they admit. They are grinding quietly, stressing privately, and absorbing pressure you never see. Like a duck gliding across water, the surface is calm, but underneath they are paddling relentlessly just to stay in motion. Psychology explains this. It's called the effort heuristic, the tendency to assume others put in less effort than they actually did. Studies show we consistently underestimate how hard other people work, while overestimating how visible success should be. Add to that the iceberg illusion. Only about 10% of someone's effort is visible. The other 90%, the failures, revisions, late nights, anxiety, repetition, happens off camera. You were comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's edited output. That comparison will crush you if you let it. The internet makes this worse. You are not competing with the average person. You are comparing yourself to outliers, the top 1%. People whose entire job is to look like they are winning effortlessly while working obsessively in private. Here's the truth that should both humble and relieve you. You are not behind because you are weak. You feel behind because the game is harder than it looks. Most people quit not because they lack talent, but because they misjudge the cost. They expect progress to feel good. Instead, it feels repetitive, lonely, and slow, so they stop. Winning doesn't require feeling inspired. It requires refusing to stop when inspiration disappears. There is more competition than you want to admit, more people chasing the same goals, more intelligence in the room, more pressure on every opportunity. But there is also a constant advantage available to anyone willing to take it. Most people will not endure sustained discomfort. They want results without strain, status without sacrifice, freedom without responsibility. And when reality demands more than they expected, they walk away. If you don't, if you stay, time becomes your weapon. So stop comparing your struggle to someone else's performance. Stop assuming others have it easier. Stop waiting for it to feel light. This is hard. It is supposed to be. And if you keep going when others don't, that alone will separate you.